Some players are lightning rods for controversy because of their persona on and off the field. Some players are lightning rods simply because they exist. Lamar Jackson is certainly the latter. Since the day he has entered the popular sports football consciousness, people have had wildly different opinions about Lamar Jackson. Is he a running back? Can he play quarterback? Is he a gimmick? On one hand, it's surprising how much disrespect is handed to a QB who is a two-time Heisman Trophy finalist and a guy who's actually won the award in his true sophomore year. On the other hand, it is very difficult to see how much hype surrounds a quarterback whose biggest weakness is throwing the ball. So this week on a new show on this channel, we will cut through all of the noise and try to find the truth about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is an enigma, simply because there just hasn't been many people quite like him. Well, there has been one quarterback that is pretty similar to him, but that is also part of the problem. Because when you see Lamar run around and do the things that only Lamar can do, you can't help but think of Michael Vick. And that is the key ingredient to what is this soup of extreme Lamar Jackson opinions. The Michael Vick comp to Lamar Jackson is kind of unfair. He's not Michael Vick, or at least not the ideal of Michael Vick that exists today. And I know that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but let's really look at the numbers that Michael Vick put up and see if they match the guy that you think Michael Vick is. See, I'm going to show you two players' stats their last 2 years of college football. Tell me who is who. See, Lamar Jackson at this point, whether you want to believe it or not, is a much, much, much better passer than Michael Vick was. And Vick, to his credit, was a much better runner than Lamar Jackson ever was or ever probably will be. And I bring up these numbers because when people compare Vick and Lamar, they always cite, for whatever reason, that Vick's passing ability was why he was able to stay in the league with that play style. But what we forget is that in Michael Vick's prime, when he was with the Falcons, Vick was putting up passing stats that don't look that different from what Lamar Jackson has put up in his rookie year. Vick in Atlanta never eclipsed 3,000 yards as a passer. Vick never threw in Atlanta more than 20 touchdowns in a season. To put this in perspective, Baker Mayfield's rookie season in just 13 starts is statistically, from a passing standpoint, much better than any season that Michael Vick has had in his entire career as a passer. I say this not to throw shade on Michael Vick. I say this not to downplay Michael Vick, but to demythize Michael Vick through his spectacular highlights and going to jail and coming back as an Eagle. And of course, Madden 2004 has become kind of this mythological beast. He's a bit overhyped. That's why when he says things that are true, like Lamar is a better passer than he was at this point of his career, we ingest that so explosively, because in reality there are two Michael Vicks. There is the one that actually played on the field, and there's one that we know from highlight reels and video games. It turns a comp that is pretty reasonable and pretty fair into one that is almost extreme. But there's more to the Lamar Jackson arguments than just Michael Vick and the comp to him. When it comes to the negativity that surrounds him, I kind of want to break this down into 3 sections, which are 1, his mechanics, 2, the offense he was in, and 3, there is no bar for Lamar. That kind of rhymes. So let's jump into the first one, his mechanics. Okay, to the naked eye, it's easy to see how Lamar's mechanics come off as lazy. He has a tendency to be flat-footed in the pocket. His lower body mechanics are somewhat not existent. He short arms throws, he flicks the ball a lot. And then we dive into the most explosive part of him being an explosive conversation, is that's the reality that he is a black quarterback. Now, listen to me. It's not about politics. This is about the perception, and anybody who has played a team sports know that sports has its own versions of racial stereotypes. White skilled players get tagged with having deceptive speed, and they have great potential to be special teamers, and they're really hardworking, and we all know the tired stereotypes that come with that. And then, with black quarterbacks, there are their own stereotypes. Black quarterbacks always get labeled as dual threat and running quarterbacks, even the ones who can't run. How many times have you heard an analyst, I think even Stephen A. Smith said this, call somebody like Dwayne Haskins a runner? I've heard people say it with Jameis Winston, Byron Leftwich, Teddy Bridgewater, all guys who are about as mobile as Andy Dalton, be called mobile, while Andy Dalton is a pure pocket passer. So we all know as sports fans that Lamar deals with the perception of him and extra criticism of him because of who he is, which makes people who believe in Lamar push back on that perception because they're trying to disprove a stereotype rather than evaluating who Lamar Jackson actually is as a passer. And I understand the sensitivity to those stereotypes. I understand why you want to prove them wrong because they've been used so unfairly so much in the past. But we also have to evaluate what we see. We have to be fair on that. And that is why, and this kind of thinking about Lamar Jackson is kind of why whenever he throws a few good balls, articles about him growing as a passer kind of get a little bit overblown and a little bit ridiculous with the hyperbole they use to describe him as a passer. But it's also why if he has a bad day or if he doesn't throw a few good balls in a day, people are so eager to make it seem like he is the worst passer ever. Because what this has created is an environment where both sides have a completely unrealistic expectation of the other. But that's not all of it. You know why people largely don't think Lamar Jackson can't pass? Because the Baltimore Ravens didn't think that he could. That's really what's behind it. How you as a franchise use a player says a lot about what you think of him. And when Harbaugh decided to run the offense that he did right when they switched to Lamar Jackson, it showed his lack of trust of Lamar as a passer. Now, me personally, I think this has less to do with Lamar and more to do with Harbaugh. Because even with Flacco as a rookie, he threw the ball significantly less than he ever has. But again, when you add this on top of everything else, that is the Lamar Jackson soup, then you see how the environment around the conversation of him as a passer becomes so insane. And the truth is, they ran Lamar Jackson way too much last year. They can't run him like they did last year, this year, because he would have like the second most carries in the NFL. He isn't built for that kind of damage. He's not built like Ezekiel Elliott. And over time, he needs to, and the fact is, he's a quarterback. Over time, he needs to grow as a passer to have a chance of success in this league. If you keep running him, and if the Baltimore Ravens insist on running him like this and actually trot out a triple option, then you're going to turn your franchise quarterback into a complete meme. And it's just going to be kind of funny, but also sad. The last thing about this Lamar Jackson conversation is the bar for Lamar. And I feel like the critics of him have a higher bar for him than his fan. I honestly expect a lot more out of Lamar as a passer than what he showed last year. When I look at Lamar, I expect much more than a sub 3,000 yard passer. I feel like there is a tendency to give Lamar Jackson a round of applause for doing things that every other starting quarterback in the NFL does every day. And when I say starting quarterback, I mean starting level franchise guy. With Lamar, we don't judge him as a passer with the same criteria that we judge every other quarterback. And to that point, I understand why, but sometimes it gets to the level that it's actually kind of insulting to Lamar. Look at his stat line his junior year of college. This is not a guy who needs a pat on the back from doing basic things. This is a guy whose numbers suggest that he is a much more capable passer than what he did last year. If we are looking at this honestly, last year I felt like Lamar took a step back as a passer. Mainly due to him being relied on so much as a runner, his passing game mechanics suffered. He fell into some bad habits. Now, this year, he looks a lot better than he did last year. He looks like he is an improved passer. He still has a few huge blind spots. And let's not mention that this is in practice. And with a quarterback like Lamar, who is going to run as much as he does, that is a very important distinction to point out, because this is a guy whose mechanics naturally are going to wear down as he gets tired late in games. Now, for quarterbacks, that already happens for guys who are just traditional pocket guys from just playing. Now, imagine if you're Lamar Jackson and you're carrying the ball maybe 10, 15 times a game. That's going to take even more energy out of Lamar, and that's going to leave him in a position to where at the end of games, his mechanics could suffer a lot. And to that point, yes, I have noticed that his mechanics are better the 2 days I was at Ravens camp. But also, I noticed that in 11 on 11s, his mechanics have been kind of inconsistent. And I noticed there was a big dip from his mechanics at the beginning of practice to at the end of practice. They were much more inconsistent at the end of practice. And while I think he will be better this year, he will showcase his skills as a passer much more this year, I don't know if he's going to match the hype that people have placed on him. So in all, what the hell is the truth about Lamar Jackson? Is he the next Michael Vick? No. He is not the runner Michael Vick was, but he's a better passer than Michael Vick was, so he's different. Is he a hyped up version of Josh Johnson or just a running back? No. That take is wild. I believe ultimately that Lamar Jackson is a more explosive, more talented version of Tyrod Taylor, who, before Ravens fans get mad, Tyrod Taylor is a Pro Bowl quarterback and a starting level quarterback. Don't at me. Lamar Jackson is going to be a above average to Pro Bowl level starter for about the next 6 to 8 years. I think due to his play style, due to the wear and tear he's going to take on his body, he's going to have a small championship window, and that window is probably going to be 3 to 6 years. But he will probably be a Pro Bowler once or twice. He and Baker Mayfield should be a fun rivalry. Those are the two young quarterbacks in this division. The other two teams don't have one, and Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield have clearly separated themselves from the rest of their draft class. But at the end of the day, whether I'm right or wrong about Lamar Jackson, what I'm going to do as a fan of football is be excited and sit back and enjoy the show. But that's all I got to say about that. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are about Lamar. Oh my God, that's going to be an explosive comment section. Yeah, but if you like this video, if you like what I do here, please hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you could be notified when I upload. And I upload a lot during this time of the season, so don't mess around. Hit that notification button. I know if you do it or not, hit that notification button. And if you have a buck or two to spare, please consider joining my Patreon, where you can have your name added to the bottom of this screen on this nice ticker bar here. It's awesome. Put a lot of work into it. Please, 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 please become a Patreon or buy a shirt, because shirts are pretty cool. Links are down below. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.